The mind, the ego, is always coming up with things and projecting problems or questions and projecting something other than this that is a destination that needs to be gotten to. So this isn't good enough. Let me think of something else other than this. And we should work towards that particular thing. And yet, when you get to that thing, it doesn't last. Another thought arises. Oh no, we got to get to the next thing. This wasn't it. The same goes with awakening. What do you think is going to happen after awakening? After you cross through the gateless gate, cross the river, reach that destination, nothing happens. There's the Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And it's perfect. That explains it perfectly. Any idea or notion that things will improve after whatever this is, whatever this awakening thing happens, this event, this big reveal, I call it, happens, it's just the mind telling you we've got to get to this particular place. It's another destination that needs to be considered that's not this. And yet, self-realization is the seeing, the knowing, the true understanding and feeling that there's no place that was gotten to. There was no place that was left. There was no start, no end, no beginning to the journey. There's just this. There's just what is. I guess it makes sense that there's this romanticized projection or idea of being free from suffering or free from stress or being happy. And it's not that. The real freedom of that is the freedom to allow all of those things to be. I had a friend who was diagnosed bipolar, and he had to take some medicine, and he stopped taking it. This was many years ago. I asked him, why did you stop taking it? And he said, he's like, it helped when stuff was bad, but then I didn't get any of the mania. I didn't get the manic parts. I didn't get the highs. Yeah, I didn't have the lows. It just sort of sat in the middle. And I totally understood. That made sense, even though the lows were pretty, bad back then. But his framework of thinking, not wanting to be that middle way, that middle path, is a reason why, not even a reason why, it's how you can see that some don't want this, some don't want this. The highs and the lows are not a thing to be latched onto anymore. In fact, they have less stickiness. And it's not necessarily about highs and lows, it's just thoughts arising about something being great, or other thoughts arising about something that isn't good, something that's bad, that needs to be changed. And then when the things that are great, then there's thoughts and anxiety around keeping them that way. But the mind will, ego, whatever you want to call it, I use all the words interchangeably, will put a marker out in front and say, awake, awakening, enlightenment, self-realization, that's where we need to be. That's the place where we need to go. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. There's certainly nothing wrong with having that marker, I guess, if it creates earnestness and this element of dedication or practice or just focus on finding out your true nature, what's going on here. I mean, it's not a problem either way, whether you put that marker out in front of you and walk towards it or not. But you get there and you say, oh, when you find out that when you are asleep and you're having a dream and then you wake up, typically you don't say, oh, that was a dream. Wow, that was wild. Typically you don't sit around and think, well, I can't believe that was a dream. I can't believe that was a dream. You might mull over the content of it or think about it. The mind wants to search for meaning. It tries until it doesn't. And that meaning happens in the waking state, or people are trying to, analyze their dreams and see what all that means. And I suppose that can be interesting for some. But the thing that you think you're going to arrive to is not a thing. The place you think that you arrive to is not a place. It's just the understanding and the knowing and the realization that there is no place. There is no arriving. There is no event with it. And some might say, well, hold on a second. There must have been there was a clear understanding at some point for you that you haven't returned from about this. And the answer is that it wasn't for me. It didn't happen to me, to this character. It just happened. It just became clear. Consciousness found itself. The infinite, the absolute, found itself in this game of cosmic hide and seek. What you think is going to happen is really just sort of another set of expectations, things that you believe will be met, something other than what this is. I've had trauma and I want to be able to deal with that. Well, that's getting dealt with. It will be dealt with. Stress in life, other characters in life, it's all still there. It's all still allowed. It doesn't go away. You don't float above it. It just is full acceptance of it as it is, and movement through and as consciousness in the absolute in this form. There's nothing here that doesn't exist there. There's no place that this body got to that body isn't part of. It's all one thing. It's all this. And the realization of it is that that's exactly what's going on. I say nothing ever happened because nothing ever happened in the past. Nothing's ever going to happen in the future. It's just always this, the present moment. So, if earnestness, if interest in the continuation of this search for awakening, search for enlightenment, whatever phrase you want to call it, continues, that's not a problem. But I get there are so many questions that come up about, what's it like, or what did you do, or how did you get there? And this thought kept rising: what do you think happens after? What do you think happens? Chop wood, carry water. It's the same. The character continues. It doesn't have as much stickiness. It doesn't have as much there's no specific intense energy of white knuckling the story of Noel and who he is and making a name for himself and what's going to be his mark on the world. There's just movement. There's just karma taking place. I don't know where we went today with this, but the question came up. I wanted to talk about it. And wherever there is, I will see you. I'll see you at that place.